America doesn't suffer from partisanship as much as it suffers from amnesia. Every few years, the same people who created the fire walk back in, sell you a new brand of gasoline, and call it. People keep voting out of emotion, not reason. Feelings first, consequences later. Every couple of years, we go through the same cycle. Outrage, promises, amnesia, repeat. So they roll out the fear headlines, the emotional bait, the democracy is dying sound bites, because if they can keep you scared or sentimental, they don't need you to think at all. The only thing shutting down faster than our government is our Welcome to Stay in the Fray podcast. I'm your host, Ryan. This is where headlines get hit hard, hypocrisy gets shredded, and the absurd are laughed at. If you want comfort, this isn't your place. If you want blunt and unfiltered, I'm your guy. Join me in the fray.
All you gotta do is just listen up.
All right, hey guys, welcome back. Another show. Here we go. Let's do this thing. The government is still shut down. It's going to do a whole show on that, but take you a different way. Take you a little, I'm going to twist it a little. Some wild and honestly disturbing elections took place last night. I should say the results were disturbing. Logic, common sense, lost in a landslide. But I'm not going to get into the weeds on communist Mamdani in New York City or Jay Jones down in Virginia wishing death on his opponent and his kids. I talk about that all the time, the insanity of the left, the hypocrisy with the things people say. And trust me, there'll be plenty of that. New York City's new leadership will give us many more topics and things to talk about as that city fades into ruins. But for this episode, I want to focus on the voters and the mindset of the people who keep getting played, who can't keep up with the politicians, mainly on the left, shifting their position to fit whatever the narrative of the day happens to be. People keep voting out of emotion, not reason. Feelings first, consequences later. Every couple of years, we go through the same cycle. Outrage, promises, amnesia, repeat. The signs are always there. Headlines screaming change. Politicians pretending they just discovered morality. And voters lining up to buy hope with credit. Let's be clear. The hypocrisy isn't limited to just one party. You've got the old guard Republicans, the deep state crowd, who talk fiscal responsibility and then spend like a teenager with a new credit card. But Donald Trump changed that equation on the right. He broke up the country club routine, and that's why both parties, especially the professional politicians, hate him. He's the guy who started pointing out the con while the magician was still performing. And now, here we are. The government shut down because Republicans won't sign off on funding illegal immigrants, their health care, and their housing. Democrats have blocked 14 separate votes to reopen it, all while going on TV to say that Republicans don't care about the working Americans. Meanwhile, TSA agents, air traffic controllers, food inspectors, the people who actually keep the country running, are sitting at home without pay. Congress, still collecting that paycheck, though. Of course they are. Washington always pays itself first, except for your president, the guy who still doesn't take a salary. Let's talk about it. This is Stay in the Fray podcast. It is November the 5th, 2025. Let's roll. So every few years before the elections, the country forgets that it just got conned by the same salesman. Different tie, same pitch. And we fall for it again. The cycle goes, like I mentioned, like this. Outrage, promises, forgetting, and repeat. One year, we're furious about spending, corruption, and border chaos. And the next year, we're too busy fighting about pronouns to care that Congress just printed out another trillion. And politicians, they know the attention span's shot. They don't even try to hide it anymore. They'll say one thing in January, the opposite in March, and by summer, their PR team's already repackaged it as growth. Now, yeah, the Republican side has had its share of professional phonies, the deep state crowd who play golf with lobbyists, talk small government, and then vote to fund every pet project on the Hill. They're part of the reason Trump rattled the system so badly. He didn't just challenge the Democrats. He blew up the fake unity club inside his own party. And the establishment's still mad that they can't get back their cocktail hour peace and quiet. But what we're seeing right now, the media meltdowns, the contradictions, the Republicans don't care narrative, it's textbook election year amnesia. People forget that the same Democrats screaming about protect democracy were the ones pushing border walls and budget freezes a decade ago. Now they're auditioning for sainthood while blocking every bill that might actually reopen the government again. That's the pattern. Every few years, the outrage gets a rebrand. The lies get a facelift. Voters get memory hold. It's not that Americans can't see the hypocrisy. It's that they're too exhausted to keep track of it all. The politicians, well, they're counting on that. They don't need you to remember. They just need you to react. So they roll out the fear headlines, the emotional bait, the democracy is dying sound bites, because if they can keep you scared or sentimental, they don't need you to think at all. So let's talk about selective memory, the kind that would make a goldfish look like an historian. The left loves pretending that they've always been the party of compassion. Open borders. But let's rewind a decade. Same faces, completely different script. Take a look at this.
Look, you've broken the law. You didn't come here the way you were supposed to. So, this is not going to be a free ride. What's going to happen is you are going to learn English. You are going to go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who was in Mexico City applying legally. I think the American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration, but they can't have a situation where you just have 500,000 people pouring over the border without any kind of mechanism to control it.
They should be sent back as soon as it can be determined who responsible adults and their families are, because there are concerns about whether all of them can be sent back, but I think all of them who can be should be reunited with their families.
Well, that was then. How about now?
So if rounding up and deporting millions of desperate people, many of them who are women and children, if that's the answer to everything, well, why is it that the number of undocumented immigrants were basically the same when he left office as when he took office? He didn't solve the problem, and I'll tell you why. Because he does not have a real plan. He has a concept of a plan, and it's a mean and ugly plan designed to foster resentment and divide people.
Meanwhile, what's happening to families at the border is horrific. Nursing infants being ripped away from their mothers, parents being told their toddlers are being taken to bathe or play, only to realize hours later they aren't coming back. Children incarcerated in warehouses, and according to one account, kept in cages. This is a moral and humanitarian crisis.
There you go. 10 years ago, it forced the law. Today, pretend that laws are optional. Same people, opposite message, and zero accountability. Why do you think that is? Because they refuse to align with Big Bad Orange Man, even if it means sharing the same goals. And let's not forget, under Obama, more illegal immigrants were deported than under any president in modern history. So spare me the moral lecture. They used the same process they use now. They used the same process that they now call inhumane. Apparently, it only became cruel once they realized they could try and score votes by opposing it. Fast forward to now. Those same sanctuary city mayors, Johnson in Chicago, Bass in Los Angeles, and now, after last night, Mamdani in New York, they're not asking for help. They're rejecting it like little brats. Trump offers to send federal resources, manpower, and policy cleanup, and they throw a fit. They're doubling down on the same failed ideas that created the chaos. Here's a scenario for you. It's a basic one, and we all know the answer, but I'll still spell it out. If Barack Obama was president right now and offered the exact same help, the exact type of federal intervention, in the exact same type of situation, you think someone like Brandon Johnson in Chicago would be yelling back at him? You think Karen Bass would be lecturing over in LA? No, of course not. They'd be rolling out the fucking red carpet. But because it's Trump and the modern right, they'd rather let their cities burn than admit the other side might have a solution. Party over country with these people, I suppose. And they're proud of it, it seems. And leading that parade is, like I mentioned, New York's brand new mayor, Zohran Mamdani, a socialist, communist, whose policies could bankrupt a lemonade stand. He's talking about solidarity with migrants, while his city can't even afford housing for taxpayers. Solidarity is easy when someone else is footing the bill. And all this feeds straight into our government's shutdown. Now, by the way, the longest in U.S. history. 36 days, I believe. Republicans said, maybe we shouldn't, fund free healthcare and housing for people who entered the country illegally. Democrats said, well, that's hateful. Then the Dems blocked 14 separate votes to reopen the government, just to protect that headline. That's not compassion. It's theater. They want things to look chaotic, even though we all know whose fault it is. They're not defending people, they're defending the brand. And every time this happens, their voters line up to cheer the encore. So here's where the rubber meets the road. The federal government, like I said, has now been shut down for 36 days. As of today, November the 5th, 2025. That makes this the longest shutdown in U.S. history. What does that mean for working Americans? Real lives, real disruption. Around 900,000 federal workers have been furloughed. Millions more are working without pay. And their key services, too. Air traffic control, it's a big one. TSA, food safety inspections. National parks, visa processing. All compromised. The cost is billions. The economy is bleeding. Now, so where's the blame going? Well, I just told you. Let's break it down. The Republican-controlled House passed reopening bills 14 times. I can't say it enough. Democrats blocked them. Meanwhile, it's always framed like Republicans won't budge. But what we're seeing is that the Democrats are the ones holding out. They're demanding extensions for things like increased health care benefits for illegal immigrants before they'll reopen. Let me put that plainly. Working Americans are getting caught in the crossfire of political theater. TSA agents sleeping in their cars, air traffic controllers managing hundreds of flights but seeing no paycheck, inspectors missing work, while the media runs headlines about government dysfunction and both sides are failing us. Here is your truth. This isn't bipartisan meltdown. It's a one-side holdout dressed as compromise. And yes, look, the Republicans are flawed. I'm not sitting here saying that one side is perfect and the other is not. But in this case, I'll call them out too. If people say, you're never willing to call them out, I'll call them out. The deep state types, the spenders that pretend they're savers, I'll call them out. But right now, the lion's share of leverage, the narrative framing, the moral high ground is being held by the left. It just is. They say they care about working Americans, and then they block reopening the government when given the chance over and over again. They say they care about the rule of law. Then they push for benefits for people who broke federal law. So what does this mean for you? Well, if you're a federal worker, your pay is late, your budget is tight, your voice is mum in the national chaos. If you're a traveler, well, flights get delayed, inspections are skipped, red tape rises. I wouldn't want to be traveling right now. I don't need some tired, unpaid air traffic controller guiding my plane. If you're a taxpayer, you're funding this mess either way, and yet you get blamed for wanting accountability. If you're a voter, you're being told to pick your side while your memory gets reset for the next election cycle. We're living in election year amnesia. where the same people who caused the shutdown are now telling you the other side's the problem. If you don't remember what they said 5 years ago, it all checks out in their favor. Here's what I keep coming back to. America doesn't suffer from partisanship as much as it suffers from amnesia. Every few years, the same people who created the fire walk back in, sell you a new brand of gasoline, and call it hope. The left has mastered the art of short-term outrage. They build entire campaigns off emotion, fear, guilt, virtue, whatever polls best that week. Voters, enough of you take the bait every time. You see it with the shutdown right now. 14 Republican votes to reopen. 0 cooperation for Democrats who keep saying Republicans don't care about workers. Meanwhile, it's the real workers getting hammered while DC argues about who gets to look compassionate on camera. But this cycle of fake morality goes way beyond our borders. Let's take a quick look at the Democrats' relationship with Israel. For decades, they stood shoulder to shoulder with America's only Democratic ally in the Middle East, even while the Gaza conflict was still raging. Half of you protesting on behalf of Palestinians, Hamas, don't even realize how long the fight over there has been going on. Now suddenly the Dems, and you people, act like supporting Israel is so controversial. Nothing about the conflict has changed in the last few years. What changed was the political market. It became trendier to wear the Palestinian flag in your bio than to understand the history. So the same politicians who once praised Israel's right to defend itself are now kneeling at the altar of public outrage. They're trading decades of foreign policy consistency for a few retweets. And I'm not saying the Israeli government doesn't have its own part in everything. I'm not. That's the point. You can condemn both sides without praising one of them. The conflict has been polarized. If you don't choose a side, the mob points their pitchforks at you. It's not about principle anymore. It's about applause and virtue. And this is how it always goes. Deep state Republicans sell you stability. Democrats sell you empathy. Neither wants accountability, because accountability ruins the show. And that's why they both go after Donald Trump. He's the one guy actually taking accountability and making things happen. Whether you agree with the policies or not, it's real action. It's not fake rhetoric. It's not performance art. He's proof that the system could work if the people in charge weren't allergic to results. Neither side can afford that kind of proof because it exposes what they've been doing all along, pretending to lead while protecting their own comfort. Every few years, they reboot the same drama, the heroes, the villains, the promises, the panic. And by the next election, voters have forgotten who wrote the last season. The truth, the only thing shutting down faster than our government, is our collective memory. Maybe it's not election year amnesia anymore. Maybe it's terminal. So that's it. The frustration for the political behavior has me fuming. If you're with me at all on this, keep sharing and liking, spread this to people you know. This is something that we really need to think about. There used to be jokes when I was a kid about politicians. It was all, oh, you sound like a politician. And there's a truth to that. And now it's no longer something that we look at. So, again, like and subscribe, do all that, and we'll catch back up with laughing at the things that these people say. But I really wanted to hit you from this perspective during this government shutdown. It's unbelievable to me that it's still going on, and it's unbelievable that we just forget hypocrisy and we forget that this is just theater. So stay aware, stay sharp, stay grounded, stay in the fray. Love you guys.
All you gotta do is just listen up.